This is a startup guide for the WiSL app. Once you've installed the app, you'll see a list of genres you can use as a starting point for your track. So I'm pressing trap, and then a track will be created for me that I can then play with and make my own. So let's take a listen to that. So I can change the speed of the track using the speed control, making it faster or slower. And each of the segments of the wheel represent a different part of the band, so bass, drums, keys, etc. And you can turn them on or off by pressing the grey button in the middle of the wheel. Now if I press the chord button on the bottom left, I can change the chord progression of my song, and I do this by pressing the different shapes to give me different types of chords. And I can change the overall feel of a chord progression by adjusting the brightness control. So if I turn to the right, the chords will get brighter and happier. And if I turn it to the left, the chords will get sadder and darker. Now let's look at the pads module. So this is for long held chords, and you can make them higher pitched by dragging up on the graph. And if you drag to the bottom, they get lower and darker. And then you can pinch and drag to make your chords broad and wide. Now let's look at the bass page. So you can add notes or take them away using the graph at the top. So if I'm dragging it to the bottom, there's only one note appearing. And then I can put notes in different bits of the music by dragging up onto the graph and adding them. And you'll see them appear as yellow below. And you can drag these notes up and down to give a sense of melody to your bass line, make them higher or lower. Now let's look at drums. So each of the strips here, the kick, snare and hats, refer to different bits in the drum part. And then you can click on the grid of all of them to add notes to it to make it busier. And then use the sliders to add extra notes on top of those. And you can turn each strip off by pressing the power buttons. Now let's look at keys. So your keyboard part you can make higher or lower using the pitch control. And there are a few different modes that control what the keyboards are doing. And then within each of those modes, different controls, so you can customize it to your liking. Now let's look at melody. So you write your melodies by drawing on the grid. So here's the melody that came in to start with. I'm going to add some notes to that myself. So you can just draw in shapes and melodic lines, and you don't have to worry about the notes being correct, because that's where the app will do the hard work for you. To remove individual notes, press the minus button on the top left, or if you want to remove everything, press the red delete all button, and then you can start from scratch with your own ideas. So let's now start changing the sounds and moving this into a different genre. So I'm going to turn some of the parts off, and then we can take a look at the different sounds in the app. So first I'm going to speed it up. And let's start by changing the bass. So by clicking the menu at the top, that opens up the library of sounds, and I can scroll through and find a sound that I'd like to use. And once I've selected it, it immediately starts playing in the app. I can then change my bass line to fit the sound a bit better. Now let's look at the drum part. So I'm going to turn off the snare and the hats, and then set the kick to 4 on the floor to give it a dance feel. And I'm going to pick a dance drum kit, the 909 clean. And I'm going to go back to the wheel and start playing with some other parts as well. So that's my old melody playing over the top of this new dance remix of the same track. I'm going to bring the snare back in by going into drums and pressing the power button. And then bring the hi-hats in as well. You can also change some of the rhythmic phrasing, so I've gone into the bass page, and then by clicking on the red grid, I can choose different rhythmic emphasis points and give the bass a different feel. And if you press the button on the very bottom left, this opens the mixer that allows you to balance your track, so turning parts up or down or adding effects. And then if you press the button in the centre of the wheel, that opens the vocal page. And then press the white button to record yourself through your phone's microphone, and then add effects to it.